Flights disappeared overnight. Airports fell silent. Suddenly, the skies above Northern America were empty. No passengers arriving from Toronto. No snowbirds flying in from Montreal. Just an eerie quiet above a once busy border that had seen millions cross freely. Why did Canada abruptly halt all US-bound flights? Was it just a response to tariffs, or something far deeper? A signal? A warning? Now, the ripple effects are crashing through the airline industry, crippling border towns, and shaking tourism hotspots from Florida to New York. And Donald Trump? His response is louder than any jet engine and twice as volatile. Stay tuned, because what comes next might ground more than planes. Number 6. Political background and catalyst for the boycott. It started with a failed handshake. A viral speech. And then, grounded flights. This didn't begin with bombs or borders. It started with a tariff, a 25% hit on Canadian steel, aluminum, lumber, even ketchup. When the White House turned up the pressure, Ottawa didn't retaliate with words. It responded with something far louder: silence in the skies. Thousands of travelers were left in limbo. Planes were rerouted. Canadian officials called it a stance for sovereignty. But what really triggered the boycott? Was it about trade? Politics? Or something personal? Behind closed doors, Canada had reached its breaking point. Tariffs struck $30 billion Canadian dollars worth of goods. Then came a proposed immigration crackdown that many in Canada saw as a direct affront. And just like that, Prime Minister Trudeau didn't launch missiles, he grabbed a microphone. He called on Canadians to cancel their trips. And they listened, in waves. Tourism nosedived. Border crossings collapsed. The fallout spread from duty-free stores in Niagara Falls to real estate offices in Fort Lauderdale. And in the center of the chaos, Donald Trump fired back, unleashing fiery rhetoric and his trademark bravado. Words that may have ignited an already smoldering firestorm. This wasn't just a neighborly dispute. It was the public unraveling of one of North America's most reliable alliances. And one question still lingers. Was this simply a protest, or the start of a permanent divide? Number 5. Travel booking and traffic declines. 100,000 airline seats, gone. Vacations, cancelled. Family reunions, postponed. Honeymoons, rerouted. Here's the shocker. It took just 72 hours for Canada's aviation industry to start reeling. And it didn't stop there. Las Vegas hotels began reporting double-digit cancellation rates. Rental car companies in Orlando noticed a sudden drop in business. Toronto Pearson International Airport? It was losing over 200 departing flights daily. So, what happened when Canada cut off all air travel to the United States? Travel search engines lit up, for all the wrong reasons. Google Trends showed a 79% plunge in Canadian searches for U.S. flights. Online booking platforms like Expedia and Kayak confirmed the trend. Canadian interest in cities like New York, Miami, and Los Angeles cratered overnight. Why does this matter? Tourism isn't just about leisure. It fuels hotels, restaurants, local shops, rideshare drivers, even Uber. According to Statistics Canada, over 26 million trips from Canada to the US were recorded last year. But in 2025, projections show that number could drop by more than 40%. And the blowback isn't one-sided. American travel to Canada has also fallen. The reason? Fear. Tension. Cancelled flights on both ends. Industry insiders call it the twin collapse, when both inbound and outbound travel plunges. Airlines are cutting routes, trimming staff, and pausing loyalty programs. One Air Canada executive even warned, if this lasts beyond 6 weeks, we're not just looking at a temporary dip. We're talking about a full-scale rewrite of North American travel norms. Meanwhile, as politicians debate over tariffs and national pride, families are left holding non-refundable tickets and sleeping in empty guest rooms. This isn't just diplomatic. It's deeply personal. Before we continue, take a second to subscribe to this channel. It's how we continue delivering real-time data, sharp analysis, and powerful updates like this. Every subscription allows us to dig deeper, go further, and reveal truths that others won't dare speak aloud. And trust us, the next chapter is even more dramatic. Because if bookings keep falling, how long before entire fleets get grounded? And if you think this is just a pause, check your calendar. Because the summer travel season? It just got cancelled. Number 4. Economic impact on the United States. Tourism. A theme park without lines. A beachfront resort with no guests. Tour guides pacing in silence, wondering where the crowds went. The truth? They never showed up. Ever since Canada pulled the plug on all US-bound flights, a quiet economic shockwave has rippled through America's tourism sector. But this isn't just about Canadians scrapping their travel plans. This is about a $25 billion hole in the American economy, and no one knows how to fill it. Ask yourself, what happens when the second largest group of foreign tourists vanishes? In 2024, more than 15 million Canadians visited the U.S. from cross-border shoppers in Buffalo to retirees wintering in Arizona. Those visitors spent over $25 billion US. That spending covered everything: hotels, food, rental cars, attractions, even gas. Now, destinations like Orlando, Las Vegas, and Los Angeles are seeing their bookings bleed out. In Miami, over 30% of winter hotel reservations used to come from Canadian tourists. That figure has already plummeted by 50% for the upcoming season. Northern border towns are feeling the pinch first and hardest. Bellingham, Washington. Plattsburgh, New York. Communities that depend on daily Canadian foot traffic for shopping, day trips, even dental visits, are now seeing empty storefronts, vacant parking lots, and silent registers. The U.S. Travel Association estimates that if the flight boycott continues through the end of 2025, it could wipe out up to 700,000 jobs. That includes hotel clerks, restaurant servers, Uber drivers, baggage handlers, the backbone of tourism-driven towns. And here's where it gets worse: this isn't a seasonal dip. It's a structural shift. If Canadian travelers redirect to Europe, Mexico, or choose to stay within their own country, many may never return to the US the same way again. Airlines are slashing routes. Travel agencies are shifting focus. And when travel habits change, they rarely come back. How bad is it? A major Las Vegas casino hotel reported a 42% decline in March revenue from international guests. In Arizona, a retirement community that caters to Canadian snowbirds says over half its units are now sitting empty. In New York's Thousand Islands, boat tour companies are laying off staff before summer even begins. And while politicians continue to spar over trade disputes and national egos, it's Main Street America that's left footing the bill. But here's the truth: this is only the beginning. This boycott is reshaping tourism as we know it. And up next, we'll show you what it means for your town, your job, and your next vacation. But first, hit that subscribe button. It's how we continue exposing what others won't. No spin. No fluff. Just the raw facts behind the headlines. It helps more than you think. And the next chapter in this fallout? It's one you don't want to miss. Number 3. Impacts on airlines and transportation operators with idle fleets. Gate agents waiting for passengers who never arrive, pilots left without scheduled routes, and baggage carousels spinning aimlessly. This is the hidden chaos behind Canada's sweeping flight boycott. The impact has been devastating, particularly for airlines and transport firms, many of which are grappling with losses far deeper than they're ready to admit. You might expect some turbulence during a diplomatic fallout, but this isn't turbulence, it's a nosedive. Just think. What happens when an entire revenue stream vanishes overnight? We're talking about millions of seats, hundreds of planes, and countless destinations suddenly gone. Within days of the announcement, major carriers like Air Canada and WestJet were scrambling to realign their fleets, reassign crew members, and brace for what insiders are calling the most disruptive blow to aviation since the pandemic in 2020. Over 1,800 weekly flights between Canada and the US were abruptly removed from schedules, and that figure doesn't even include connecting flights. The ripple effects are staggering. Air Canada alone has forecast losses exceeding $400 million Canadian dollars this quarter. Regional carriers like Flair and Porter, both of which had recently expanded into U.S. routes, are now freezing operations, shelving aircraft orders, and furloughing large portions of their workforce. One airline executive described it bluntly: a forced winter in the middle of summer. But it's not just the passenger business in freefall. Cargo services are unraveling as well. FedEx and UPS, both reliant on cross-border express routes, are seeing rerouted or delayed shipments. That means critical delays for industries, medical supplies stuck on tarmacs, manufacturing lines held up for lack of parts. Ground transport companies are feeling even more acute pain. In cities like Windsor and Niagara Falls, cross-border bus companies have come to a halt. Major operators like Greyhound and Megabus, once running multiple daily trips across the border, are now hemorrhaging cash. One charter company shared that their bookings dropped from 15 per week to just 2. At the airports, support workers, cleaners, baggage staff, security crews are facing sweeping layoffs. According to the labor union Unifor, over 10,000 jobs in aviation are now hanging by a thread. Across the border in the U.S., northern airports in states like Vermont, New York, and Michigan are experiencing some of their lowest foot traffic in 2 decades. Duty-free shops are suffering, with sales dropping as much as 70%. Rental car lots are half empty, not because people are renting vehicles, but because the cars aren't moving at all. And here's the chilling projection: if this boycott lingers into fall, airlines may begin terminating long-term lease agreements for airport gates and shelving future hiring. Planned routes won't just be paused, they could be scrapped altogether. The long-term consequences? Fewer flight options, steeper fares, less travel flexibility, and in some smaller cities, a total collapse of regional air service. This isn't just about flight cancellations. It's about an entire transportation infrastructure slowly being grounded, and if it drags on much longer, the damage won't be something you can simply rebook. Number 2. Canada's domestic travel boom and the rise of alternative destinations. With US-bound flights grounded and borders tightening, one might assume Canadians simply stayed put. But that's not what happened. Instead, they adapted, and fast. Think about it. If your go-to travel destination were suddenly off limits, would you cancel everything or find a new place to explore, relax, and recharge? Millions of Canadians chose the latter, and that decision is reshaping the country's travel landscape. Before we dive deeper, make sure to hit the subscribe button so we can continue delivering real stories, hard data, and insights that other platforms often overlook. Your support helps us go further, and trust us, what's coming next could completely reshape Canadian travel norms. Back to it. Domestic travel in Canada has exploded. In April alone, domestic flight bookings surged more than 35%, with the biggest jump seen in provinces like British Columbia, Nova Scotia, and even the Yukon. Hotels in places like Whistler and Prince Edward Island are now fully booked months ahead, a level of demand usually reserved for peak holiday seasons. Even traditionally quieter destinations are feeling the boom. Saskatoon, for example, has reported a 40% rise in summer bookings. Local tourism boards are boosting ad campaigns, and smaller airlines are adding new routes just to keep up. But the shift isn't limited to air travel. RV rentals have spiked. Via Rail is having its busiest spring since 2016. Ferries, national parks, and road trips are seeing demand soar, so much so that some booking systems can't update fast enough. Canadians are clearly on the move, and they're spending, but this time, their dollars are staying within the country. That said, this surge comes with growing pains. The sudden influx of tourists has overwhelmed local infrastructure in hotspots like Tofino and Jasper. Crowding, overbooked transit, and housing shortages for seasonal staff are becoming serious issues. In many areas, hotel prices have risen by as much as 60%, pushing some middle-income families to seek out more affordable, lesser-known alternatives, like the White Shell region of Manitoba or the coastal stretch along the Bay of Fundy. At the same time, many Canadians are looking internationally, but steering clear of the U.S. Travel agents are reporting a 70% rise in inquiries about destinations in Europe, Southeast Asia, and South America. Mexico has emerged as a top alternative. Cities like Cancun, Puerto Vallarta, and Mexico City are seeing unprecedented traffic from Canadian travelers, many of whom are visiting for the first time. So what does all this mean in the long term? It suggests that the old Florida snowbird tradition may never fully rebound. Airlines like WestJet and Air Transat are already shifting their focus away from U.S. markets and investing more in overseas routes. Meanwhile, domestic tourism, once seen as a backup plan, is fast becoming one of Canada's most dynamic sectors. The boycott may have clipped flights to the U.S., but it's launched something bigger, a full-on reinvention of Canadian travel patterns. And with summer only just beginning, we're just now seeing the tip of the iceberg. In strength in the face of global challenges. Behind closed doors, insiders close to the former president revealed that Trump interpreted the boycott as a reflection of deeper problems in U.S.-Canada relations, issues he attributes to outdated treaties and what he sees as unfair trade dynamics. His advisors were said to push for new negotiations that would more assertively prioritize American labor interests. Notably, the rising tension stirred significant responses across the U.S. government. Lawmakers from key border states like Michigan, Washington, and New York began calling for diplomatic solutions to the crisis, fearing it could lead to lasting economic consequences. While Trump's tone was tough, it echoed the growing frustration among American officials dealing with the disruption. So what does this signal about the road ahead? The Trump era was marked by bold language mixed with unpredictable negotiation moves. If past behavior offers any clues, we can expect an increase in public statements and mounting political pressure aimed at pushing Canada to rethink its position, especially with the next U.S. election cycle fast approaching. Ultimately, Trump's response served as both a stern warning and a rallying cry. The U.S. won't stand idle in the face of foreign policies that endanger its economic well-being and national interests. This boycott is about far more than just grounded flights or political symbolism. It's a critical test of how two tightly connected nations navigate their economic alliance under strain. Canada's bold decision sent ripples through its tourism, trade, and transport sectors. At the same time, Trump's charged remarks introduced an explosive political dimension to the unfolding crisis. The implications are massive. Will Canada remain firm in its stance? Will the U.S. retaliate with new economic measures? Or can both nations find common ground before the financial damage becomes irreversible? Only time can answer these questions. If this breakdown gave you a clearer view of what's really playing out beneath the headlines, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this video with anyone who values staying informed. We're here to bring you accurate, no-nonsense updates as this story continues to evolve. Stick with us, because when two powerful nations collide, the entire world pays attention.